Hello and welcome to my channel. Let's dive right on in. So today I have a painting illustration for my for a short story I wrote last semester for my creative writing class. So this was my favorite scene from the whole story. I really enjoyed writing it, and I just wanted to see what it would look like as a painting, as a visual thing, rather than just the description words that I really enjoyed. I love the writing of this scene, and it's so vivid and beautiful, but I just wanted to see how it would be with a painting, and that's sort of a fun skill I have developed to be able to do something like this, so I thought I'd take advantage of that. So here right now you can see I'm doing some color swatches sort of things to figure out what colors were going to work best and give me the best feel for this art piece. I printed out some smaller versions of the sketch I'm using and then painted on top of them, which worked pretty well. It's not the cleanest sketch. You can definitely see there's it's a lot darker and it doesn't appear white on the page, but it worked pretty well to just get general colors, and it was a fun way to start off the piece by doing these sort of color compositions and figuring out where I wanted to go with the art piece. And it was a really nice way to start off just because it's so free and you don't have to worry about where you're placing your brush every time you go to put color down. It's really sort of general, just want to get blobs of color and see how it would look, which made it really fun. I ended up really liking the colors that I chose in the end, but I mean, I think they could still be improved, but this was a really good exercise to understand colors, and I tried to do something that was sort of a triad, and then I experimented different things I wanted. In the end, I decided I wanted it to be primarily purple and red with a little bit of green in there for contrast, and then but yeah, it was really fun. So yeah, I decided on the colors that would work best for this. This is the Reptile house from my story, and so I wanted to, you know, really push the colors. It's at night, the scene's at night, so there's really limited light, so I wanted to make sure I had a really nice deep dark in there, and then each of the reptile tanks are sort of glowing from inside. There's no clear light source. I thought about that, but it would have been kind of distracting to have some obvious light bulbs inside them, so I just had some like general glow coming from them. And it was a really interesting lighting situation, but I think I could have pushed the shadows even more. This is something I kind of struggle with, is getting the shadows as deep as you want. It's really easy with like photo editing. I really love photos that have so much contrast, and it's so easy like Photoshop or something to up the contrast just with the slider tool, and I just love the effect, and I love how those deep shadows and brights look together. It's really interesting, and I just love that upped contrast, but it's something that I'm really tentative about with my traditional art. I don't tend to take it very far, and I would really like to work on that a lot. Let's talk a little bit more about the lighting, because it was really challenging what I tried to do with this piece, having many different sort of indistinct light sources from many different directions. It was hard to figure out where the shadows were going to be exactly and what places were going to be lit and which places are going to be even brighter. So that was kind of tricky, and I think I could have improved on that a little bit more, but I'm really proud of myself for trying out a new light source. I tend to leave my light sources really general, and I don't really think about them a lot, and I just throw some shadows wherever I feel like it without really thinking about how it's going to work in the overall piece and how important it is to be purposeful about the lighting and how much it can change a piece for better or for worse. So it was really fun to think about that a little bit more, and that is one of the things I would like to focus on for future pieces, is that important lighting aspect of it. It's important to know where your light is coming from. So let's talk about the line art I did for this piece. So you can see I just put color right on my sketch for this one. Sometimes I like to line my art before putting color on. It just depends on what kind of effect I'm going for. This one, I wanted it to feel really sketchy and not really exact and precise. So I decided to put the line art on after I've finished the coloring, which was really fun. It's very fun to watercolor without lines, with just a sketch. You don't feel like you have to be as precise. You can be a lot looser, a lot more general, and it feels a lot more free. And that being said, you can go over places where you were going to have a line and not realize that there was going to be a line there, and then that makes it a little bit more tricky to figure out how you're gonna fix the mistake. But it also makes the style of the line art very distinct as well, which is what I was looking for. I wanted it to be very sketchy, very loose. Don't worry about exact placement, and don't worry about the line being the same width all the way. I let it get scratchy at some places, let it be thick and bold in others, and I went with a pretty thin fine liner for this piece because that was what I was going for. And then I want to talk about, I did a couple of thumbnails for this piece, which was really fun. In my sketchbook, I drew several small boxes and then figured out different layouts that I could have, because I knew I wanted it to be like a domed top, but I didn't really know how I was going to have the tanks inside it, and like there was a lot of thought that went into this. I found a bunch of photo references on Google, and then I tried to figure out different layouts and figure out what other reptile houses looked like. And the only part I really knew I wanted was the dome on the top, and then the big round tank in the center. Other than that, I wasn't sure what I was going with. So yeah, it was really helpful to get out my sketchbook and have those little mini versions of it to test out what I was doing. And then the last thing I want to talk about was I tried out a new filming angle for part of this. It was really close and kind of tilted, so you could see a lot more of what my hand was doing when it touched, or when the brush was doing when it touched the page. And I really like this. I'm still not sure if I want to stick with it or still experiment with it, but it was fun to try out something new. So I might do more of that in the future. And lastly, let's go over the materials I used for this piece. I used the Strathmore Watercolor paper. I used my Grumbacher 12 round brush and my Princeton brushes. And then I used two watercolors. I used Reeves Watercolor and the Cotman Watercolor set by Winsor & Newton. And then I used Micron Fineliners, which was, so those were pretty simple materials for this piece. I usually go with more of a mixed media vibe for my watercolor paintings. Use different pens. I would use like mix in some gouache or something, and then I would put colored pencils on top of it. And this time I just kept it to the basics, just watercolor and then the fine liners. So it was fun to go back to the basics and figure out more about how to do just watercolor, which is something I don't often try. So I'm really glad I got to experiment with this a little bit more for this piece. And overall, this was a really fun piece. The only thing I regret about this would be not pushing the contrast up even more. But other than that, it was so much fun, and I had so much fun writing the story that I'm just really glad that this illustration of it turned out so well and looks so close to what I imagined in my head when I was writing it. So I hope you enjoyed this little illustration of a reptile house with the snakes and their tanks and the girl in the center at night. And yeah, thank you so much for watching. Let's take a look at the final piece. Here we go. And yeah, I'm really glad you stuck around and listened to me. And yep, remember to live life respectfully. Bye.